I want to ask you, yeah. You see, when we talk about like obviously the healing process, yeah. Do you believe that a person can fully heal without forgiving certain people within who obviously maybe hurt them before or whatever?
No.
You get me? Because you know, like me growing up, and even when I was obviously going through my journey, which I'm still going through my journey, like I do therapy as well sometimes, and certain people say like part of healing is, you know, like forgiving others, because it's like if you don't forgive people, it's like kind of baggage, mental baggage or spiritual
It is.
baggage you still
Yes, it
got.
is.
But yeah, like just in general, do you believe like before you can fully heal yourself, you know, internally and move forward with your life, do you honestly believe that you need to forgive all of the people that, you know, in your life that have done you wrong or all of
Yeah.
these things?
I do, and I think that the forgiveness starts with yourself. I think that if you're able to forgive yourself, then you're able to forgive another. And the reason why I say that is because I believe that humans are their own worst critic. Okay? And when we're in predicaments that we could have made better choices, or just full stop, that we could have made better choices, right? We tend to beat ourselves up and deal with shame and internalize all these things, right? And then because of that, we also grow more resentment and more anger to whoever may have put us in a particular predicament. So I believe that being kind to yourself and forgiving yourself first is what's going to give you the ability to be able to find compassion for the other person. You don't have to like them. You don't have to like how they portray themselves, but forgiveness is a must, because none of us was born with a handbook, right? This is how you're supposed to live your life.
Yeah, true.
All of us has experienced things that cause dysfunction in the brain, dysfunction in the heart for one way or another. And all of us project that pain in different ways.
In different ways, yes.
So that's where, for me, the compassion comes from, where it's about, no, you do need to forgive other people. It doesn't mean you need to be their best friend. It don't mean you need to have them in your life. But it also, when you're able to find forgiveness for other people, it also shows that you have a deeper understanding. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For you though, like are you one of them people that maybe not easily forget people, but obviously over time, the more work you've done on yourself and all of these things, has forgiveness like become even a little bit easier for you to forgive certain people? Because obviously, like all of us know, like this is why we call this platform Reality Tim TV, because in a real life, in reality, like you've got people for whatever reasons who, like, people, they're doing that work to, you know, to heal, you know, to make themselves a better person in whichever way that is for them. But however, it's like because of certain people who might have done this to them or whatever to them, they really, really, really find it difficult to really forgive those people. Get me? And by the way, again, I'm one of those people as well. I'm still trying to forgive certain people.
You need to work on your heart
space. Yeah.
That's what it is.
I'm still doing that. It just obviously it's a process. You get me?
Of course. Let me tell you something. It's not an overnight process. I've been working on my heart for nearly 6 years. Genuinely, you know, and I found that my heart was extremely closed, extremely shut off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think that does come with learning how to forgive yourself. I don't think that we should force ourselves to forgive others. I think that we should force ourselves, though, to forgive ourselves and find education in psychology. I really do believe that, because psychology explains a lot, you know, how the mind works, and that will allow you to have a deeper understanding of how and why people do what they do.
Yeah. Like going back to your obviously, like you're a businesswoman. Going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, like in your personal life, do you have you found it like you see, like with certain obviously men in general, because you know, like sometimes in some podcasts or some platforms, they have this conversation of like, you know, like a woman who has got her things together, whatnot, a boss lady who's making her own money, especially these days more than ever. Like, you know, some men get intimidated by that. You understand? So like in your own, again, like I said, if people obviously on camera, people who are going to be watching this conversation, they're going to see how you come across. But at the same time, I want to tell people very, very quickly on here, if you're in the presence of Jordan, like in real life, you can feel her energies. You get me? Like beautiful energies.
Thank you.
Beautiful light energies, and you can tell, like, you know, she's a woman of her business. You get me? So like in your journey, like, have you come across certain men who maybe you might have like intimidated without doing it on purpose, but because of, you get me? Like, and how's that been for you? Because sometimes I like when I meet certain women like you, like I just want to ask that just in general because sometimes, yeah, like certain men, it's like they just look at women like you and it's like, nah, I can't even really move to her like that, or this and that, unless I've got my shit together, or this and that.
You'd be
Like,
surprised.
But yeah, for you in your reality,
you'd be surprised that
how's
a
it
lot
been?
of men who think they have their shit together will, approach and they definitely don't have their shit together.
Fucking hell, that's a reality. That's a wake up call.
Oh, 100%. Whether that's financially, spiritually, or physically. And when I say physically, I mean, can you do for yourself? Can you cook for yourself? Can you clean your own clothes?
Can I ask you a quick question into that? Sorry to even cut you, darling.
go on.
Hopefully you don't lose your chain of thought,
right, go on.
So, for you personally, obviously I don't know if you're single or you've got a man,
No.
but even putting that aside, just in general, if, for example, if you were single, and obviously me and you, we met, what would be the first, what would be the number one thing that you would obviously, in order, if me and you are going to date moving forward, what would be that number one thing that you would look for in terms of is it financially, spiritually, what would be that number one, or even two or three things that you need, a certain amount? Okay, cool.
Spiritually first.
Yeah.
Because
to have together,
yeah, man,
Yeah.
you need to know yourself. You need to know what your assignment is. Literally, do you know what I mean? For me, that's extremely important because we're not just here existing, just walking through life.
living our best life.
We're supposed to be living our best lives, but we're supposed to be living our best lives in our purpose. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, that's extremely important. A man that knows God, that's extremely important. And fears God. Yeah. After that, I would say financially, because I'm able to provide for myself and two other human beings. And if a person is not able to provide for themselves, that's really definitely a turn off for me.
Yeah. Could you ever get before we get back to obviously you
Yeah.
in terms of if you've encountered obviously certain men who
yeah.
you're always intimidated
Yeah.
because of obviously you doing your thing, but going back, would you ever get with a man who deep down he's so is good, but obviously he's been through his journey, he's still very early in his journey in terms of healing, and he's got so many things that he still needs to work on, either spiritually or even financially? Would you ever get with a man who
Not anymore.
he's gone through? Talk to us.
Once upon a time, because I've done that. I've done that.
You've been there, done that.
Yeah, I've got two kids.
Yeah.
Whose fathers spiritually need to do their work.
I hear you.
Do you get what I mean?
I understand.
So, nah, I wouldn't be making those sacrifices.
Yeah.
Listen, you could be a good person, and see the goodness in someone's soul. It doesn't mean they see it themselves. And that was a damn tough lesson for me to learn. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't.
No applications.
For me, obedience is better than sacrifice.
I hear
and
it.
I'm not willing to sacrifice myself anymore.
I overstood that one.
You get what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I hear you.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. So going back to in your journey, in terms of certain men that you might on your journey that you might have maybe not on purpose but because of the way you were, like we said, you might have intimidated. How has that been? Because usually when you got someone like you, and for example, if you're single, I would assume moving forward in terms of dating, and finding the next man for you who you can settle down with, this could be a little bit tricky because
It's extremely tricky.
the guy that you might want, he might get intimidated by you. Understand?
Well, to be honest with you, it is extremely tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky for a few reasons. One of the reasons is because you attract what you are, or you attract the subconscious things that have gone unhealed. And now I'm aware of that. I'm like, okay, maybe there's other things I need to work on. And even if there's not other things that I need to fully work on, listen, we've all got work to do, right?
Of course.
Sometimes last week we feel that we've done what we needed to do, and somehow we're back at square one a week later.
Isn't that crazy?
But that is the heart. Once I explained to my friend that the heart is like a balloon when you've blown it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it gets old after a couple of days. It goes a little bit furry.
Yeah.
And you can put a pin in it, and the balloon won't pop, but the balloon will go down slowly.
Yep, it goes very slowly.
That's what I believe the heart's like. Okay, so when you have trauma, when you have particular things that you go through, you're pricked, and eventually the heart slowly deflates, which is why you have people who are fearful of love, who are, do you get what I mean? Who don't want to settle down and stuff like that, because I believe these kinds of people, their heart's deflated. And what you've got to do is do things that give back to you. So whatever you enjoy doing, self-care is not just about like getting your nails done or getting your hair cut and all that sort of stuff. Self-care is also about sitting in silence, sitting in peace, and just maybe writing down the things that come to mind, the things that trouble you. Self-care is about, you know, nurturing the child within. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I think that me personally, when I'm in a relationship, I can do all that for myself. And I think that when I get into relationships, men walk into the relationship with a particular perception of me, yeah? Like how I carry myself, I'm well-spoken, I seem a bit stush or whatever you want to call it. But then when they see a different version of me, I think a lot of the time they're not quite sure how to take me because there's so much more of me. I'm like an onion.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And then on top of that, I find that over the past few years where I've revisited music and my creative skills, you know, particular attention that I might get and stuff like that, I think that also intimidates men.
Yeah.
You know?
And even going into your music, yeah, this is a perfect segue, yeah? Like, how do you navigate through that then? Like, in terms of, like, obviously certain men maybe wanting something more than music. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, how have you been able to, like, just in general, like, you know, to navigate through, like, so far the music industry in terms of, like, not being able to lose yourself?
Yeah.
And your integrity,
Right.
but also being able to, you know, to still cut through and to still be able to like make your music and make these connections in the industry.
At first, I think that I kind of wanted to be liked by everyone, and then I guess I found that you can't do that, one, and two, in order to be an independent artist, it does mean that you're not going to be liked by everyone. It does mean that, you know, people are going to try and pull a fast one. It does mean that you're going to make tons of music with people and it might never get released. It's a lot. It's not easy navigating.
Yeah.
And when you are somebody who, I'm a very sensitive person, yeah. Don't get me wrong, I grew up with 3 brothers. You can call me a little warhouse, whatever you want to call me. You know, once upon a time I was definitely that version of me.
Yeah.
But I'm not naturally that version of me. And I don't want to be in arguments with people over something that we're supposed to be enjoying, over something that we're supposed to be doing, giving back.
True, yeah.
Do you understand?
Creating.
Yeah, we're supposed to be creating and giving back and sharing our heart space, you know, one way or another. And I just don't believe that battling of wills and all that should be involved in creation. So for me, the music industry is a difficult place to be. I feel like I manifested and I got quite far and I met some beautiful people and still friends with a few. You know, and other than that, now I'm back in a place where music has become enjoyable for me again. I took like 6 months out.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, I just want to live life. I just want to enjoy, I just want to experience.
Sometimes you need to do that. Live a
Yeah.
good life, you get me?
So that you also get experiences to write about. You know what I mean? So,
Like, when some people go through, like, certain, like, obviously bad experiences, you know, within, like, obviously the music industry, sometimes, I'm sure you've heard of this, some people fall out of love with the music, you get what I'm trying to say, because it's like, fuck this, like...
I have twice.
You get me?
Yeah.
And how have you been able to fall back into love? How have you been able to fall back in love with the music? Because, like I said, certain people, some people, they're like, fuck this, especially...
I was like that for a long time.
Yeah.
I wrote off music for about 10 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, I wrote off music for about 10 years. I was like that for a very long time.
Yeah.
As a kid, I did a lot of theatre. I had a lot of lead parts in musicals and stuff like that. Sony Records wanted to sign me when I was 11 years old. My parents, well, my mum especially, was like, nope, I wanted to stay in school. I have had many experiences. I don't know if you remember Rewind magazine back in the day. I worked with them, performed for them, was in the magazine, all kinds of stuff. And then my gran died at 18. And for me, the world ended. And everything ended with that.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. You know, life again, it happens. But yeah, for me, I was just like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do nothing. And for about 2 years, I just wanted to die, to be honest. I was extremely suicidal, really struggled with my depression. And then when I got pregnant with my son at 21 or at 20, that was my new lease of life. So I delved into music just a little bit, but I believed that I was just supposed to go to work. just make money. I need to provide for my son. So again, I put it to the side. Then 10 years later, I had my daughter at 30. And my initial thought was, I grew up like, you know, loving Beyonce and Mary J. Blige and, you know, TLC and all these people. Those were the women I looked up to, other than my gran. And I didn't want my daughter to look up to people on the TV.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's what a mother's role is when they're bringing up a woman, when they're bringing up a girl. I believe that you should nurture your child to embody a better version of you.
Well said. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I also feel like you need to do that without cutting off their lease in life. And I think that that's a very difficult thing to navigate, but I think it's extremely important because we're all born individuals. We're all born with our own personalities. So yeah, I would say that when my daughter was born, I was like, do you know what? I don't want my daughter to get to a certain age, or she's hearing me sing in the house and she's saying, Mum, why don't you go on X Factor? Why don't you, I did go on X Factor, by the way, but anyway, but why don't you go on, you know, whatever, The Voice or whatever? And then me turn around and say to her, yeah, I did all that, but I just gave up, kind of thing. I didn't want that for her. I didn't want her to see me give up. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like, okay, let's dip our toes in, see how this music thing goes again. And I loved it. I love jumping back into it. And
Come on.
you know, it gave me a new lease of life. It really boosted my self-esteem. It really helped heal the inner child with me. And yeah, I've been enjoying it ever since. I just feel like I needed to take a break. Last year, I fractured my knee and tore a ligament, and there was just a lot of hustle and bustle in the music industry, and I just didn't have the energy to be fighting with people. So I put it down for 6 months.
Yeah. So fast forward now, yeah? Where are we in terms of like, you know, your music career and what's going on with the music now?
Now, my music's still getting played, which is nice.
Come on.
And I'm on the verge of getting ready to write an R&B EP.
Yeah?
That's where my heart is. That's where my vocals are. I started on Garage because I enjoyed it, and I was signed to a publisher that, you know, said, it kind of helped advise me and to say, you know, maybe Garage would be a good way to kick down doors, and it did. But I also found that I wasn't really being true to myself and my craft.
Yeah.
And because of that, yeah, the next EP that I'm releasing will be an R&B EP for sure.
Yeah. So even just a quick one, yeah. Like for those who obviously want to proper listen to your music, like the music that you've got released at the moment out there, like what is the best platform to go to, or platforms?
I would say Spotify. On Spotify, I'm Jordan Music _1, I believe.
Yeah.
And I've got a few songs on there. You can also find me on YouTube. All my other platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, they're all under Geordie Jordan, Geordie with 3 I's, Jordan. And on there you can find me singing like acapellas, covers, all that sort of stuff. You can also find a few of my podcast interviews, which are really good, really deep, informative. So yeah.
Like you see, like music, yeah, especially like, you know, like more than ever, yeah. It's such a complicated industry. It's a noisy industry. Like there is so much money within the music industry more than ever because of social media, exposure, all of these things. You get me, Jordan, yeah? So like when I speak to music artists, yeah, like one of my favorite questions I always like, because I think this question is very, very important, especially like I said, how loud the music industry is at the moment, yeah? Like in general, not even in general, like you see that with your music career and like you releasing music, you doing your music thing, yeah? What do you want to get from your music career in general?
Healing for myself and others.
Talk to us.
At first, when I first got back into music, I think it was just more about the money. You know, like I'm grown. I'm not 21. Do you know what I mean? I have 2 children. One of them is nearing an adult. And I really just wanted to be able to create long-term financial comfortability for me and my children. And so I pursued it. When I fractured my knee and tore the ligament, I was forced to basically sit down and reflect on my achievements. And, you know, and also how I felt about myself. And one of the reasons why I decided to change genre in regards to my music is because I felt like I wasn't completely being true to myself. And I feel like I was forced to sit down and ask myself that question. Also, on top of that, I've been approached by Illuminati a few times. And yeah, which I thought was like crazy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
I didn't
trippy.
expect that one.
Right, but I'm
But
not
once
the
again,
only
going
one.
back to your energy, sorry to even cut you, but once again though,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, like I'm gonna tell people for the second time.
Yeah.
If they were here experiencing your energies and your presence, yeah, it's crazy.
Thanks, but I'm God's child. You know what I mean? So
Come on.
we
So,
won't be crossing
what are we-
over to the dark side.
Yeah, are we?
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
When you are a powerful force.
Yeah. Energies
you
don't
will
lie. You know what they
get
say?
100%.
Energies and
You
people's
will-
spirits don't
you
lie.
will. You'll get entities and
Yeah.
trying to infiltrate your spiritual being self. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
for sure, definitely experience that. And it's just not a world that I want to be part of. And obviously, once you get to a certain status, you don't really have much of a choice. Like,
Do
if
you totally believe that? Oh, that's actually true. Because remember, there's a lot of us who we're not in the music industry. Innit?
Yeah.
Remember, there's a lot of us who it's like we're outside of a certain house, right?
Yeah.
Like, let me just paint this picture. It's like we're outside of a certain house, and for many, many years, you know, a lot of us who have never been in that house before, or we've never been invited to that house before, we hear so many different stories of this house, and it's like, for a lot of us, it's like we hear these stories, but it's like, unless we know somebody personally who's been in that house to kind of tell us if some of the things that have been getting told about the house, if it's the truth or not.
Yeah.
So we don't know. So it's like,
Definitely the truth.
because we hear it like over the years, you know, all of us love music, innit?
Yeah,
But we
exactly.
hear it over the years, like
But we also
Illuminati,
know music is
all
the
of
devil's.
these. Yeah.
We know that if we have understanding of spirituality.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's like for you, and it's like obviously because even like what I think probably like one or two music artists. Yeah, I've actually asked them like again just like a random question to just balance out obviously the conversation, and I've asked them a question, and the question is just basically like if the Illuminati would ever, you know, like if the Illuminati or whatever these people are called, if they ever approached you and they offered you a crazy amount of money,
They said I
that
could
would-
be rich and famous.
Yeah, but
Basically.
what made you say no? Literally, because like we say, a lot of people, like you know, like I know to a
What
certain
made me
degree,
say no?
people sell their souls and people do all of these
Let me
things.
tell you what made me say no.
Yeah, what
Years
literally
and
made you
years
say no?
ago, my little brother, he's not so little, he's only 3 years younger than me, but my little brother gained a huge interest in, you know, that world, yeah, and what it consisted of, and our history. You know, he delved down the rabbit hole basically.
One of them ones, yeah.
Yeah, and just found out so much. And at the time, I was like 16. I remember him coming to me saying, "Oh, did you know this? Did you know that? And there's gonna be like COVID, where we're all gonna be locked in our homes and blah 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 blah." My brother told me about so much stuff.
He predicted that years
He
before.
told me, yeah, and we're gonna have. What did he say to me? What did we have? Like the military on the roads and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, he said all of that to me, and I used to look at him and be like, "Yeah, okay, like." What are you talking about? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Little did I know that my brother's level of intelligence was far beyond most of our thought process, right? Anyway, obviously years later now, we've both delved down different rabbit holes and, you know, followed certain musicians and what sort of things they, you know, the Illuminati, let's say, has propositioned to them and all that sort of stuff, right? So I've always had some kind of knowledge of what that involves, all right? And then they've approached me maybe 3 times over the past 4 years. Basically saying, you know, you are a child of the light and all that sort of stuff, yeah?
They're not lying.
Well, I know I'm a child of the light, but you cannot... See me, my spirit is strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, my ancestors walk with me, 110%. You understand? Don't care how crazy that sounds, I know, right? And I get feelings in my gut, I get feelings in my chest, and if it feels wrong, then I'm not rocking with it. So my first initial experience with them was like, I was actually quite scared. I actually felt quite fearful, like, what the hell? Why are they in my DM? Do you know what I mean? And then I basically just turned them down, said, no, sorry, I'm a child of God, block. Then they came back again about 6 months later, saying basically, we're going to make you rich and famous. Isn't that what you want? Blah, 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 blah. And that's when I really had to ask myself the question, why are you doing this? Are you doing this because you want to be rich and famous? Yeah. Or are you doing this because you want to save your soul? And the real reason is why I got back into music is because I wanted to save my soul. because God gave me a gift and I was insulting him by not using it, one. And two, you know, when you know about spirituality and how important it is to do the inner work, it's also about honouring the child that never got to do the things that they really wanted to do. So that's when I realised that's really what God had in store for me, healing.
Yeah. And obviously for, you know, like once again, for some of us who hear these stories, it's like, and I'm sure some people are probably going to be watching this and are going to be like, how are those messages like? Is it like different? Is it like encrypted? Like, is it just like a random message inviting you somewhere
random
to
messages
talk?
like,
Yeah.
you know, with like the little triangle
Yeah.
in the message or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's just like, you are the child of the light, and you know, we want to anoint you basically with gifts, worldly possessions, and all that sort of stuff. It's just, you know, like people who are money hungry will be like, what? Do you know what I mean? Like,
This is exactly why even like I think the question is so important in terms of like why what are you looking to get from this music, you know, the music industry, like your music career, in terms of like why are you doing music? Because I feel like a lot of people who probably cannot even answer that question here, like down the line, if they end up being successful, I think some of those people are the ones who could easily sell their soul, because it's like from the beginning it's like they kind of lost, and it's like,
well, yeah, they're lost
get
because
me?
they're already lost, because all their original thought process is, I just want to be famous, I just want to be rich, I just want to be rich, I just
know
want
what
to
I
have
mean?
money. So that is already a loss.
yeah,
Because you're only concentrating on worldly things. When you die, you don't get to take none of that with you.
none.
So for me, my understanding is what you do get to take with you is your enriched spirit, though, because energy never dies. The spirit doesn't die. So for me, it's about not being broken. For me, it's about putting all my pieces back together.
Yep.
No matter how I put them back together, and honouring myself and my wants, the things that I know are going to make me feel good. And me releasing music heals me. And then once it's out there, people who resonate with it heals them. So that for me that's all I really need to be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Healing people.